Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into a historic mystery that literally shook the Earth on June 30th, 1908. We're talking about an event so massive and honestly so perplexing that scientists are still completely captivated by it well over a century later. It's an incredible story of raw cosmic power and lingering questions, known simply as the Tunguska event. 80 million. Seriously, just try to wrap your head around that number for a second. That is how many trees were instantly flattened across more than 2,000 square kilometers of the remote Siberian wilderness. Just picture that level of sweeping, total destruction in your mind's eye. So, here's the thing. If something was powerful enough to wipe out 80 million trees in the literal blink of an eye, how on earth is it possible that no impact crater was ever found? I mean, zero crater. This is the absolute core puzzle of the Tunguska event. To truly grasp how strange this is, we need to go back and trace exactly what happened. Section 1. The day the sky fell. A peaceful morning shattered. The incident began on what was just an ordinary, quiet morning for local hunters and villagers. But it's crazy how rapidly things escalated. We go from absolute peace in the wilderness to, suddenly, a blinding fireball streaking across the sky. Eyewitnesses actually described it as brighter than the sun. And then, mere moments later, an earth-shattering explosion that completely lit up the horizon. The immediate fallout was just terrifying. The shockwave was so immense, it physically knocked people right off their feet. Animals were in sheer panic, fleeing deep into the wilderness. We're talking windows shattering hundreds of kilometers away from the explosion site. Oh, and perhaps the most eerie detail of all, the night sky just glowed. It glowed for days on end following the blast. Section 2. A craterless crime scene, investigating the devastation. Now, because Siberia is, incredibly remote, it actually took years for scientists to finally reach this cosmic crime scene. And when they did, what they found completely defied logic. Out on the perimeter, millions of trees were flattened, pushed down like tiny matchsticks, pointing away from the center. But at the exact epicenter of the blast, the trees were left standing perfectly upright. Upright, but entirely stripped of their branches, like a weird forest of bare telephone poles. But here is the real kicker. Despite all of this unimaginable destruction and that massive footprint of flattened trees, investigators found absolutely no crater. There was no large meteorite buried in the earth. There was no obvious source for the explosion to be found anywhere on the ground. It was like the weapon had just vanished. Section 3. The leading suspects. Interrogating the theories. All right, so with zero physical evidence left behind on the ground, we have to look up. Over the decades, researchers have thrown out all kinds of theories. They range from an ice comet to a massive pocket of ignited natural gas to way more unusual ideas like unknown natural phenomena or, even alien spacecraft. But today, most scientists actually favor one specific suspect, a large asteroid. But wait, how does an asteroid strike without leaving a mark? To understand how an asteroid leaves no hole in the ground, we have to talk about something called an airburst. Basically, this is an explosion of a meteor or asteroid high up in the Earth's atmosphere before it ever physically touches the surface. The intense friction and pressure just cause the object to violently detonate in midair, which then sends a devastating shockwave hurtling down below. Section 4. Modern science steps in. The forensics. Let's fast forward and look at how modern forensics have quantified this historic explosion. Today's computer simulations give us a much clearer picture of the physics behind the blast, and they suggest the energy released was equivalent to a staggering 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. That is an almost incomprehensible amount of energy to suddenly detonate in the sky above our planet. And to put that abstract number into a rather terrifying perspective, this math means the Tunguska blast was hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Hundreds. Honestly, it is a miracle that this immense release of energy happened over a remote, sparsely populated wilderness rather than a major city. But the investigation didn't just end in the 20th century. Even today, well over 100 years later, researchers are still actively piecing this puzzle together. They're analyzing advanced satellite data to map the broader region. They're conducting brand new geological surveys to check for microparticles. And they are continuously reviewing historical records and those original witness accounts to dial in their models. Because despite all of our incredible modern technology, the Tunguska event remains one of Earth's greatest natural mysteries. It perfectly sums up the idea that, some mysteries leave no crater, only questions. And it's a pretty stark reminder that our planet is still incredibly vulnerable to the unpredictable forces of the cosmos. So I will leave you with this final thought to chew on, and definitely discuss in the comments below. Based on all the evidence we've just walked through, what do you think really exploded over Siberia back in 1908? Was it a massive asteroid that detonated as an airburst, a comet, or is it something we still just don't completely understand? Thank you for exploring this amazing historical puzzle with me in this explainer. Keep asking questions.